Good afternoon, everybody. I'm having some issues over here I'm trying to fix really quickly. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Welcome to my channel. My name is 12 Gauge. Like I do the intro all the time, if you haven't been here before, I hope that you find something that entertains you and something that gives you a little bit of purpose while you're going through the library and you're listening to my voice on certain topics such as addiction, true crime, life skills, amongst other things. If you've been here before, thank you so much for continuing to show up and to listen to the things that I have to stream about and present. Let me say hello to Nina, Rondi, Glitter. How you guys doing tonight? Happy Sunday Eve. You know, 12 Gauge was kind of busy today. Wore myself out, I guess. I was on Dago's panel and we were discussing the case that we discussed last night, Ellen Greenberg. Um, because he was discussing it. So I was invited up on panel, and I kind of gave my input on some of the things that I discussed last night, which I really enjoyed being up on that panel. And I was also on Twiddlestick's panel for a little bit. Um, and they were discussing the four. So I really didn't stay on that panel very long. I don't know what it is about that case anymore with me. It's not that I've lost interest or anything like that, or I believe any different than I have the whole time that I've put out videos about it. To me, it just seems like in my mind I've reached the end of the road with that. It doesn't. I mean, I can't say it doesn't matter to me, but I can say that I just don't have any any want to continue to cover that. I will talk about it, but I just don't want to spend hours and hours and hours discussing it, if that makes sense. Yes, I did see that. Thank you so much, Glitter. I meant to email you, but like I said, I've been really busy. Yeah, I did see that. I did see that, and I have a part two in the works, so I will show a lot of the stuff that you sent me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, Tonight I want to talk about fight or flight. I have a worksheet that I'm going to go over and I'm going to give some discussion about it. If you didn't catch my live this morning on the Serenity morning portion of Sunday, if you go back and check that out, because I think that one went really, really well. I was really on point this morning. Um, so if you get a chance, if you're watching this one, you might check that one out from this morning. It was really interesting. Um, I really enjoyed it. So hopefully this one will be just as well. This one's fight or flight or the defense mechanism. And I'm not really tying this to true crime. I'm tying this to like just in general. In general, when we go through stress, when we go through changes in our lives really quickly, we tend to go into that defense mechanism because for whatever reason our body's built that way to either fight or to run, to flee or to freeze. So let me bring up that worksheet and we can go ahead and discuss it. While I'm doing that, Rondi, how's your ankle doing? I remember you discussing it this morning. I hope it's doing better. Nothing hurts as much as a twisted ankle. I mean, it is quite painful. Let me know if y'all can see this. It still looks small on the screen. At least I don't need my glasses right now to read this. Ooh, I hate that for you, Rondi. I hope that you're icing it and applying some heat to it. So let's go ahead and get started with this. What is the fight or flight response? This fundamental physiologic response formed the foundation of modern day stress medicine. The fight or flight response is our body's primitive automatic inborn response that prepares the body to fight or to flee from perceived attacks, harm, or threat to our survival. And we should all know that. Anytime, like I was mentioning last night when we were talking about that case, if any evil becomes you or your children, and, you're going to instantly go into this defense mechanism, or it comes toward yourself, you're going to instantly go into defense mode. What happens to us when we are under excessive stress? When we experience excessive stress, whether from internal worry or external circumstance, a bodily reaction is triggered called the fight or flight response. Originally discovered by the great Harvard physiologist Walter Cannon, this response is hardwired into our brains and represents a genetic wisdom designed to protect us from bodily harm. I'm so thankful that we have this because can you imagine facing something and not being able to regulate ourselves? We'd go over the top until we just fell out. This response corresponds to an area of our brain called the hypothalamus, which, when stimulated, initiates a sequence of nerve cell firings and chemical release that prepares our body for running or fighting. So, whenever we're under a lot of stress, and this is what I want you to understand as well, um, it happens so quickly. A lot of times we get accustomed to this release. Like you just heard me say, there's chemical releases when this happens. So we reach a threshold of this chemical release, and we no longer identify that this is going on because we built that threshold to it. And I hope that makes sense. Because when we get used to stress of any kind, when we start to understand it early on, what happens is we face this fight or flight, and then throughout our lives, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger because we start to build a tolerance to it, so to speak, and it takes more and more of the chemical release for us to overcome stress. And that's why sometimes it feels like, man, I'm breaking down, I can't handle this, life is really tough, all these type of things. And that's because you've run out of the chemical ability to regulate this type of stress. That's why it's always recommended to do self-care. Like I know some of you in the chat, you work out, you run, you chase kids around, you do whatever you need to do to stay active. Continue doing that because the more active you are, the natural ability of the body to relieve the stress hormone in your body. Stress is a silent killer. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it is. When our fight or flight response is activated, sequences of nerve cell firings occur, and the chemicals like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol are released into the bloodstream. So we can become addicted to these three chemicals just like anything else. These patterns of nerve cell firing and chemical release cause our body to undergo a series of very dramatic changes. Our respiratory rate increases, blood is shunted away from our digestive tract, and directed into our muscles and our limbs, which require extra energy and fuel for running and fighting. Our pupils dilate, our awareness intensifies, our sight sharpens. Our impulses quicken, our perception of pain diminishes, our immune system mobilizes with increased activation. We become prepared physically and psychologically for fight or flight. We scan and search our environment looking for the enemy. So, what happens when there is no real enemy and it's just I didn't pay my bills or I didn't make enough money to cover my bills? What happens? Our body doesn't know the difference between that and what I'm about to talk about. We've been preparing for this since our creation. So, our brain, our perception of this stress, and the release of these chemicals, they continue going on and on and on, and we become oblivious. Do you think that's why some people love to cause trouble? They want to fight because they got the high. Yes, exactly. Very good. That is so true. They get addicted to the chemical release that they get from that high of starting chaos. Okay, here we go. When our fight or flight system is activated, we tend to perceive everything in our environment as a possible threat to our survival. That's why I also always say the way you treat yourself is how you're going to perceive your world. So if you treat yourself with kindness, you're going to treat your world as kind. But if you treat yourself with extreme um, perfectionism or negative thoughts or whatever, then you're going to be walking around in a cloud of fight or flight. So, by the very nature, the fight or flight system bypasses our rational mind, where our more well thought out beliefs exist, and moves into the attack mode. This state of alert causes us to perceive almost everything in our world as a possible threat to our survival. As such, we tend to see everyone and everything as a possible enemy, like airport security during a terrorist threat. We're on the lookout for every possible danger. We may overreact to the slightest comment. Our fear is exaggerated. Our thinking is distorted. We see everything through the filter of possible danger. We narrow our focus to those things that can harm us. Fear becomes the lens which we see the world. Let me highlight this because this is intensely what. Good grief. Anyways, yeah, that part right there. Fear becomes the lens which we see the world. You know, a lot of times that's a method of control by public politicians, by people trying to control you in a relationship, anything like that. The more fearful you are of that situation becoming real, that's how you see your world. You narrow your focus to things that can harm you rather than identifying the beautiful things in your life that are going on. Didn't mean you describe me like to cause trouble. I do have a tattoo that says trouble when you talked about the bills and the money. Oh, that makes a lot of sense, you know. There's there's that method of control in toxic relationship. There's that method of control in toxicity at jobs. If you're fearful of losing your job and you're already under a bunch of stress, you're not going to do the best you can. You're going to be worried and focused on everything you do and how perfect you got to do it. So you're going to mess up even more because there's no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing. We can begin how to see it. It is almost impossible to cultivate positive attitudes and beliefs when we are stuck in survival mode. Our heart is not open, our rational mind is disengaged, our consciousness is focused on fear, not love. Making clear choices and recognizing the consequences of those choices is unfeasible. We are focused on short term survival, not the long term consequences of our beliefs and choices. We lose the ability to relax and enjoy the moment. When we were overwhelmed with excessive stress, our life becomes a series of short term emergencies. You ever met people that are like this? They're overwhelmed with their life, usually by what they cause it to be, and everything in their world is an emergency. You ever wake up and you call your best friend or you text them? It could be 7:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, and you ask them, "Hey, how's it going?" And that's the wrong question to ask. You get this barrage of this sucks, that sucks, blah 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 blah, and you're like, "Whoa, why did I ask that question?" People lose the ability to relax and enjoy the moment. When was the last time you actually relaxed and enjoyed the moment in your world? Is it when you come on to lives? Is that a moment that you take a breath and you're like, okay, I can just chill and listen to what I want, and enjoy this? Because if it is, then I'm glad you're here. We live from crisis to crisis with no relief in sight. We have individuals in this world that even if they complete a situation that's going wrong in their lives, they're quick to put something else there. They don't ever relish in the moment of peace. They live from crisis to crisis and they don't see any end in sight. You say, well, at least you paid that off, or at least you just got a new vehicle and you don't have to walk anymore. Well, yeah, I just added another bill to my arsenal. Now I got something else I can't afford to pay, but I need it. And then I got insurance, and then I gotta, fill it up with gas, and gas is so high, and eventually I'll have to replace these tires, and my house is falling apart. I got to fix this. I got to fix that. I got to do. And you're like, man, do you ever take, you ask those people, do you ever take a time out? Do you ever just breathe? Do you ever just breathe? I see an insight though. I realize it's just a season. Eventually it has to end as fast as it started. Yes. Being outside is the best. You're right. I don't agree with this statement, but I'm going to tell you why. Not your life, but I thought it said, but mostly life sucks. I I was gonna say I don't agree with that statement. Life doesn't suck. It's how you react to it. That's what sucks sometimes. You know what I mean? Like life is gonna be life. After a certain age, it's a repetitive action. So last night we were revealing our ages, and at one point we have to say, you know what? There's nothing that's going on in my life that I haven't seen before, possibly multiple times. And I survived through those moments. I can survive through this. Burnout is inevitable. This burnout is what usually provides the motivation to change our life for the better. Before I got that week long vacation from YouTube and then I went on vacation myself, I was pretty burnt out and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize it until I came back. And at that point, I realized, you know what? You were really running on fumes and you were not doing anything about it. You were just existing. We are propelled to step back and look at the big picture of our lives, forcing us to examine our beliefs, our values, and our goals. When you finish reading about these fundamental principles of fight or flight response and the relaxation response, don't forget to visit our homepage to discover the very practical ways you can achieve greater health, happiness, and peace of mind. What is our fight or flight system designed to protect us from? Our fight or flight response is designed to protect us from the proverbial saber-toothed tiger that once lurked in the woods and fields around us, threatening our physical survival. At times when our actual physical survival is threatened, There's no greater response to have on our side. When activated, the fight or flight response causes a surge of adrenaline and other stress hormone to pump through our body. This surge is the force responsible for mothers lifting cars off their trapped children, and for firemen heroically running into blazing houses to save endangered victims. The surge of adrenaline imbues us with heroism, and courage at times when we are called upon to protect and defend the lives and values we cherish, the lives that we value and cherish. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? You know, have you ever heard of mothers lifting up vehicles to help their trapped children, or just anybody? You're like, how did they do that? Well, it's because they tapped into a different ability that they don't tap into every day. What ends up happening to you releasing adrenaline, cortisol on a daily is you become numb to this world. You become numb to stress. You become numb to your relationships. You become numb to your jobs. You become numb to your life. You feel like you're just walking in a dream because you're dissociated from your reality. Things could be burning down around you, and you'd still look at it like it was no big deal. Instead of running like a normal person, you're just looking at it, going, I hope it ends quickly. That's sad, isn't it? Tell me that's a good way to look at life. How many saber-toothed tigers do you have lurking in your world? When we face real dangers to our physical survival, the fight or flight response is invaluable. Today, however, most of the saber-toothed tigers we encounter are not a threat to our physical survival. Today's saber-toothed tigers consist of rush hour traffic, missing a deadline, bouncing a check, or having the argument with our boss or our spouse. Nonetheless, these modern day saber-toothed tigers trigger the activation of our fight or flight system as if our physical survival was threatened. On a daily basis, toxic stress hormones flow into our bodies for events that pose no real threat or physical survival. And you know what's sad is this generation does not know how to deal with this. A lot of them view perfectionism as the only way to do something, and if they're not perfect with it, more often than not, they hurt themselves some way. And that is sad. That they feel that it has to be so perfect or they have to hurt themselves or end their lives. That is tragic. So tragic. Don't you agree? Once it's been triggered, what is the natural conclusion of fight or flight response? By its very design, the fight or flight response leads us to fight or flee, both creating immense amounts of muscle movement and physical exertion. This physical activity effectively metabolizes the stress hormones released as a result of the activation of our fight or flight response. Once the fighting is over and the threat which triggered the response has been eliminated, our body and our mind return to the state of calm. Has the fight or flight response become counterproductive? In most cases today, once our fight or flight response is activated, we cannot flee. We cannot fight. We cannot physically run from our perceived threats. When we're faced with modern day saber-toothed tigers, we have to sit in our office and control ourselves. We have to sit in the traffic and deal with it. We have to wait until the bank opens to handle the bounce check. In short, many of our major stressors today trigger the full activation of our fight or flight response, causing us to become aggressive, hypervigilant, and overreactive. This aggressiveness, overreactivity, and hypervigilance causes us to act or respond in ways that are actually counterproductive to our survival. Consider road rage in Los Angeles and other major cities. That is so true. So, what would happen if you get your water turned off and you have to take off from work that day because you can only get there during certain times? So, you're missing out on money for the day that you already don't have. You go out to your car and you turn the key, the car doesn't start. The battery is dead. And then you call somebody for a ride and they take hours to get there, while the whole time you're pacing back and forth, thinking about the money that you're missing out on, thinking about the bill and the possible mistake they've made. You try to call them, see if you can deal with it over the phone. They say no, you got to come in. So your ride finally gets there. You go down there and they're closed for lunch. So you say, okay, I'll go get a battery while we wait for this place to open. So you go to get the battery, and you have a big old hassle there. You go back to turn your water on. You have a big old hassle there. And by the time you get home, you're putting the battery in because you're wondering, well, I got to get to work tomorrow. And you slice your hand open because you're so fidgety and nervous and so overstimulated because of all the things that have gone on. And you finally get the battery in there, the car starts, but your hand is sliced open and it's deep. So you got to go to the hospital, got to get stitches. They say, take a day off. And even though you don't want to, your boss doesn't allow you to come into work. So there's 2 days off that you have that you're not making any money. People would lose it at this point. They would lose it at this point. They would lose it. Their minds would be all over the place. Y'all have some good solutions, but doesn't mean that you'd be calm. It is counterproductive to punch out the boss, the fight response, when she or he activates our fight or flight response. Even though it might bring temporary relief to our attention, it is counterproductive to run away from the boss, the fight response. When he or she activates our fight or flight response, this all leads to a difficult situation in which our automatic, predictable, and unconscious fight or flight response causes behavior that can actually be self defeating and work against our emotional, psychological, and spiritual survival. Is there a cumulative danger from overactivation of fight or flight? Yes, the evidence is overwhelming that there is a cumulative buildup of stress hormones. If not properly metabolized over time, excessive stress can lead to disorders of our autonomic nervous system, causing headaches, irritable bowel syndrome, high blood pressure, and the like. The disorders of our hormonal and immune systems, creating susceptibility to infection, chronic fatigue, depression, and autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and allergies. To protect ourselves today, we must consciously pay attention to the signals of fight or flight. To protect ourselves in a world of physiological rather than physical danger, we must consciously pay attention to unique signals telling us whether we are actually in fight or flight. Some of us may experience these signals as physical symptoms like tension in our muscles, headaches, upset stomach, racing heartbeat, deep sighing, or shallow breathing. Others may experience them as emotional or psychological symptoms such as anxiety, poor concentration, depression, Hopelessness, frustration, anger, sadness, or fear. Those are some huge things right there, guys. Don't you think? Don't y'all think those are some huge outcomes to stress? Excess stress does not always show up as the feeling of being stressed. Many stresses go directly into our physical body and may only be recognized by physical symptoms we manifest. Two excellent examples of stress induced conditions are eye twitching and teeth grinding. Conversely, we may feel lots of emotional stress in our emotional body and have very few physical symptoms or signs in our body. That's why, I've known a lot of people that have had panic attacks and they think they're having heart attacks. I'm like, whoa, that is wild. You're having a panic attack, but it feels like a heart attack because of all the built up fight or flight response that's going on in your body. Think of it as flipping the light switch on and off. You go into a room and you're flipping the light switch on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. What eventually happened to the bulb? One of those times you flip it on, it doesn't come on, right? So this will happen to us. One of these times that we go to get riled up to overcome, that's going to be our last time. It's going to burn out. By recognizing the symptoms and signs of being in fight or flight, we can begin to take steps to handle the stress overload. There are benefits to being in fight or flight, even when the threat is only psychological rather than physical. For example, in times of emotional jeopardy, the fight or flight response can sharpen our mental activity, thereby helping us deal decisively with issues, moving us to action. But it can also make us hypervigilant and overreacted during times when a state of calm awareness is more productive. By learning to recognize the signals of fight or flight activation, we can avoid reacting excessively to events and fears that are not life threatening. In so doing, we can play emotional judo with our fight or flight response, using its energy to help us rather than harm us. We can borrow the beneficial effects, heightened awareness, mental acuity, and the ability to tolerate excessive pain in order to change our emotional environment and deal productively with our fears, thoughts, and potential dangers. This is basically saying we can turn whatever it is that's harmful toward benefit. What can we do to reduce our stress and turn down the activity of our fight or flight response? The fight or flight response represents a genetically hardwired early warning system designed to alert us to external environmental threat to pose a danger to our physical survival. Because survival is in the supreme goal, the system is highly sensitive, set to register extremely minute levels of potential dangers. Such, the fight or flight response not only warns us of real external danger, but also of the mere perception of danger. This understanding gives us two powerful tools for reducing our stress. Let me ask you guys, all three of you, all three of you, me and two other people, that's awesome. Let me ask you guys in the chat, when you walk into a restaurant, do you ever scan your location? Do you ever scan around and look to make sure that you're safe? Like, where are you going to sit? How are you going to sit? Where's the nearest exit? What are you going to do if something pops off? If you do this, then you're programmed to this that I'm talking about. You're programmed to it. That's your reaction to stress. Because quote unquote calm people do not have to look for an escape in their lives. I understand there's a big threat these days. I get it. But at one point, you have to relax. Just be prepared, but you have to relax a little bit. Because what you do is while you're eating your meal, your muscles are tense, your body is tense, your mind is racing, and you're not enjoying it. You're not enjoying it. I do that too. I have to catch myself and tell myself, hey, cool it. It's cool. It's okay. Changing our external environment, our reality. This includes any action we take to help make the environment we live in safer. Physical safety means getting out of the toxic, noisy, or hostile environment. Emotional safety means surrounding ourselves with friends and people who genuinely care for us. Learning better communication skills, time management skills, getting out of toxic jobs and hurtful relationships. Spiritual safety means creating a life surrounded with a sense of purpose, a relationship with a higher power, and a resolve to release deeply held feelings of shame, worthlessness, or excessive guilt. Changing our perceptions of reality. This includes any technique whereby we seek to change our mental perspectives, our attitudes, our beliefs, and our emotional reaction to the event that happened to us. Many of these techniques are discussed in depth in Section 3 that include cognitive restructuring, voice dialogue therapy, inner child work, learning not to take things personally, affirmations, and self parenting. Changing our perceptions of reality is best illustrated by the proverbial saying, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade. Without actually changing our reality, we can alter our perception of reality, viewing the different difficulties of life as events that make us stronger and more loving. Physical exercise can also turn down the activity of an overactive fight or flight response. I know some of you work out, some of you go for a walk, some of you have stressful jobs. Perhaps the best way to turn down the activity of fight or flight response is by physical exercise. Remember that the natural conclusion of fight or flight is vigorous physical activity. When we exercise, we metabolize excessive stress hormones, restoring our body and mind to a calmer, more relaxed state. Maybe that's why I come home and go to sleep right after a workout. For the purpose of stress reduction and counteracting the fight or flight response, we do not need to exercise for 30 to 40 minutes. Any form of activity where we work up a sweat for 5 minutes will effectively metabolize off and prevent the excessive buildup of stress hormones. Get down and do 50 push ups, 50 sit ups, jumping jack, jump rope, run in place, run up and down the stairs, whatever. By exercising to the point of sweating, we effectively counteract the ill effects of fight or flight, drawing it to a natural conclusion. Get up and do that right now. Get up and do 50 push ups and 50 sit ups, 50 jumping jacks, and run in place. Come on. What's stopping you? Not you, Rondi. Not you. Glitter, if you're still in here, get up and do 50 push ups and 50 sit ups and 50 jumping jacks and run in place. And anybody else who's listening out there, sometimes when I'm upset, I close the door to my office. I do 25 quick push ups, work up a light sweat, and return to work, clearer and calmer. Frequent repetitions of short exercise are easy to fit into our busy schedule. For full cardiovascular fitness, longer periods of exercise do have additional benefits. But for the purpose of stress reduction, many exercise sessions are practical, effective, and beneficial. Exercise increases our natural endorphins, which help us feel better. When we feel good, our thoughts are clearer, our positive beliefs are more accessible, and our perceptions are more open. When we feel tired and physically run down, we tend to focus on what's not working in our lives, similar to a cranky child needing a nap. It is difficult to be, feel, or think positive when we're exhausted, sleep deprived, or physically out of condition. So let me take some comments. Is there anybody in here other than Rondi? Yes, I make sure to stretch. Yes, exactly. Only see your comments, Rondi. So if Glitter's still in here, I don't see her comments for some reason. So y'all make sure you get up and do something. What is mind chatter? If we could read the owner's manual for the mind, we would find a full chapter on what is called mind chatter. Mind chatter is its endless, restless stream of incomplete thoughts, anxieties, and self-talk, which constantly pulses through our minds. In order to survive, our mind is always on, searching for possible threats, dangers, solutions, and explanations. This is called our strategic mind. The strategic being either real or imagined. This constant vigilance of the mind not only distracts us with excessive worry, but can also trigger the activation of our fight or flight response. I had mind chatter really bad um early on in life, and usually that mind chatter would tell me negative things. Negative things. And whenever you're listening to negativity, it does nothing but hold you down. It makes you tired, it makes you fatigued, it makes you not want to do anything. So there's still some more, but I can really go ahead and talk about this without reading verbatim what it says. It says, are there any other ways to quiet the mind? During any repetitive exercise, such as walking, swimming, or running, repeat your focus word or your phrase with each step or stroke. For example, when I run, each step I might say peace or love. Practicing yoga with its mental focus on postures and breathing can elicit the relaxation response. Deep breathing exercises with a focus on breath can trigger the relaxation response. Progressive muscle relaxation techniques, where you ultimately contract and then relax each muscle group, moving progressively from head to toe, will elicit the beneficial effects of the relaxation response. Repetitive forms of prayer elicit the relaxation response. Singing or chanting your focused word or phrase, either silently or out loud, will elicit the relaxation response. Walking outside, walking by a creek, sitting outside, just breathing and enjoying the woods or wherever you live. Or if you're lucky enough to live by the beach, listening to the waves crash, you know, listening to those waves crash. I'm going to put something on. Hopefully it doesn't get me a strike because there's no music. You can go and you can anything on YouTube and you can help yourself however you view yourself being helped. But many of us feel like we don't have any problems, and that in itself is step one toward destruction. I'm gonna play this for a couple minutes, and while I'm playing this, I want you to close your eyes and breathe in and breathe out, and just listen to the waves. That is such a beautiful sound. Such a beautiful sound. You know, I don't know why I love the ocean so much, why I love those sounds so much. I'd prefer to be by the water or by a lake or river and just listen to the water go by rather than being in the woods or, in the mountains or any of that stuff. I'd rather be by the water. It just brings about a peace that I can't find anywhere else. When I was early on in my journey for recovery, I used to I used to go find a spot and I called it my God spot. And this spot was an area where I could go and just sit and be peaceful and at ease. And I felt like everything in the world was okay. No bills, no worries, no financial strain, no relationship issues, no none of that. And it made me feel rejuvenated. And since I've came back from vacation, I'm on a different mindset. I'm on a different vibe, so to speak. You know, I didn't realize how burnt out I was before I left. Before I left YouTube for that week. Before I left on my trip. I didn't realize it because I was just stuck in a rut. I was stuck in a routine where, get up, go to work, do what you got to do, come home, go to sleep, get on YouTube, whatever. Talk negative self talk about the crimes that I would discuss, argue with people in the chat, things of that nature, where I wasn't adding to the beauty of life, I was deducting from it. And if I can suggest anything to anybody, did you write that down somewhere? Am I adding to the beauty of my life or am I deducting from it? If what I'm thinking adding to the beauty of my life or am I deducting from the beauty? How I view myself, is that adding to my life or is it deducting from my life? And I think that's one of the reasons why I refuse to do certain things regarding certain cases is because people are just not able to listen without being forceful, you know? So you have to set a boundary. You have to set a boundary with people, even if they don't know about it. You have to stay focused and calm in your own life on a daily. Otherwise, you're just destroying it. Those arguments first thing in the morning, it's too early for that most of the time. And I used to see that when I'd see clients first thing in the morning. They'd come into my office, it would be 8 o'clock, I'd be half asleep. And I'd have an individual walking in. They just came from their PO's office or whatever, and they're already a live wire. It's like watching a live wire flickering back and forth. And they'd come in talking a million miles an hour about this problem or this and that and the other, and what a crappy weekend they had, and all the worst things in life. And I would be thinking, I'd hate to be walking in their shoes. I've been there before. And I even told one time, I said, "Do you know what time it is?" They're like, "Yeah, it's 8:30." I said, "And you're already this wound up about your day? You know you can start it over, right? You don't have to be in this mindset. You don't have to be in this reality. But you can't change people." That's one thing I learned a long time ago, and it made me a better version of myself when I realized that. Because I used to take on people's problems and internalize them and try to help them way beyond the effort that they were trying to make themselves. And all that does is make you psychologically, physically, spiritually, and emotionally sick. You have to leave people where they're at most of the time because they don't see what you see. They don't hear what you hear because we're programmed to want to run the show and know what we're doing in our own lives. And most of the time, like I just pointed out, we get overwhelmed and we get shut down and we get numb and we're just existing and we hate our reality. That's why marriages go bad. They get stagnant because you quit growing together, you quit talking, you quit communicating, you stop enjoying life together, and you become an extension of a world that you wish you had, and you feel trapped in your own life. Then somebody comes along and gives you a compliment, or you start talking to them, and the newness ignites that almost burnt out flame in you, and then you end up cheating, or you end up emotionally having an emotional affair with these people because they've ignited something in you that you have been craving a long time. You know, before long, I like that, Chandra. I like that. Keep calm and carry on. Do you remember when those sayings were a thing? You'd see them all over the place. They'd be on posters. They'd be on shirts. They'd be all over. You know, I didn't realize that when I was younger. I didn't realize that my partner was my safe place. I just viewed them as a place to shield them from my inequities. Because I thought that if I was actually honest enough with them about what was going on with me, then they'd view me as weak or broken and they'd run off. There with the abandonment issue, right? So you have to understand how you're built. How you're built. What's the situation that makes you better? Because many of us focus on the negativity and the toxicity of our lives in order to make it through the day, that you feel if you get too relaxed, how are you ever going to get started again? Well, I can tell you that the more that you take care of yourself, the more energy you will have, the more ambitious you will be. And hopefully one day you'll enjoy your life. You know, hopefully one day you'll enjoy your life. I only speak on what I know works, you know? I don't live in a fairy tale world where I think that this might work or, that worksheet I just read to you, I don't believe in it, this, that, and the other. That's not true. I believe in all of it because I've seen it work. I've seen people at their worst and then they transition into the best version of themselves, and it's a beautiful thing. You come in crashing and burning, you're on fire, you're running on fumes, and somebody takes the time to mend you back together, to take the time to help you heal through the trauma. And when you're walking out, you don't even recognize your former self because you've done so much work on you that you don't desire to ever go backwards. That is a beautiful thing. That is a very beautiful thing. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed my live stream. It's already been an hour. Wow, that went fast. I hope that you've enjoyed tonight's version of the Serenity because fight or flight is important. And like I said at the very beginning, it doesn't all the time have to deal with true crime, fight or flight, because that's where you hear it a lot. It can be you sitting at your desk, sabotaging your good fortune, sitting in your car during a traffic jam, making your day worse. Let me give you one more example before I get ready to close it up. Those of you that are mothers, have you ever had such a hard, tough day and you say, I can't take any more of this? On your ride home, you think, well, I'll just calm down before I get home. Things will be all right. So you walk in the door and you're kind of calm, but then you see your house is a mess. The kids aren't doing anything, they're just laying around watching TV. It smells, it's just terrible. And instantly, that calmness that you possessed on the way home, somebody just threw fire on that calmness. And you go from calm to a raging lunatic. And then by that night, when you got everything cleaned up and you're no longer mad and you're trying to wind down, you're laying in bed and you can't sleep and you wonder why. Because the adrenaline is still going through your body. The cortisol is going through your gut. And it's calming. It's getting to the point of calm, but there's been so much released throughout the day. And then at the end of the day, you've released even more, so it takes even more to calm you down, and you're laying there and you can't sleep. And then you wake up exhausted one more day. Give yourself a break. Give yourself the opportunity to say that saber-toothed tiger is not chasing me when I walk in and my house is a wreck. I could choose to clean it or just clean a little bit of the most important stuff and ask the children nicely to help you clean it. And if they won't, clean a little bit of at a time because you know they're going to destroy it the next day. Quit personalizing it. Like people are attacking you on purpose, like these little ones that you've created set out to say, how are we going to destroy mom day to day? How are we going to destroy the person that loves us? How are we going to intentionally destroy her serenity? You can get it done. When you get home, go take a bubble bath. Calm yourself down. Listen to some music. Burn some candles. And then when you get out of the bathtub, if you still have any energy and you're calm, clean a little bit. I promise you, you'll clean a lot faster with that calmness than you will with the anger. And if you don't have the energy, go right to bed. It'll get cleaned eventually. Like I said, clean the important stuff. If there's anything spilt or, something that you need to be cleaned up immediately, clean that up. But go take care of yourself. Because you're no good to anybody if you're not any good to yourself. And you might think I'm crazy, but I was just thinking, I'm such the helper that if I was there, I would be cleaning up while you took a bubble bath. Because I'm so calm all the time, mostly. It's like, no, go do what you got to do. I got this. I'm a helper. That's who I am. Yes, exactly. Just make a path through the mess and head to the bathtub. Take care of yourself. They'll realize it eventually. They'll be like, well, mom quit harping on the mess. Let's help her out a little bit. Or you can just say, hey guys, can y'all clean up a little bit before I get home tonight? You never know. It might catch on. You never know. Especially with that hurt ankle. You need to go take care of that ankle because if you just hobble along on it, you're going to weaken the other ankle for overcompensating with that ankle, and you're just going to hurt yourself again. So go put that thing up. Get it better. Work on you. It's going to be okay. Nothing is that pressing. Good. Well, you guys, thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this stream, I hope that you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, I hope that you subscribe. Rondi, Glitter, Twizzle, thank you for being here. Chandra, even if it was just for a brief moment, thank you for stopping by. Glitter, you went away. I don't know what happened. I hope everything's all right. Nina, you went away also. You didn't come back. Unless you're here and you just aren't chatting. But regardless, I hope everybody has a wonderful night and a beautiful beginning to your week. I don't know what I have going on this week as far as lives. Let me check right quick. That way I can make an announcement. I might have to reschedule some because that 5 hour one took a lot out of me last night. To talk for 5 hours, you would think that it's not going to drain you that much, but it does. Let me see here. Oh, I have the Summer Wells one scheduled for tomorrow. That one's pretty deep. So I might reschedule that one. Might reschedule that one for Wednesday or so, and take a couple days off from this if possible, because I don't need to be doing this every night. It's not that important. Once again, you guys have a wonderful evening, and I hope that this helped just a little bit. Maestro, cue that music.
Yeah. Unknown Brain, Marvin Devine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
I know that I gotta stay away from all your games. Yeah, I know that I found somebody else to love me one day. You'll realize the grass ain't greener on the other side. No, you did me dirty for the last time. Now I gotta say goodbye. So now I gotta say
Yeah, my life is lovely now, I'm focused on me. You said you were about to die, I guess the car is on E. But see, I ain't even tripping, cause I just chose to believe that somebody gon' come around and give me just what I need. I don't wanna see you finding, see you looking down and out, coming to me crying, saying you miss having me around. Gave you chances and you blew it, you so easily influenced. All the times you told me beat it, now you gotta